he's in, every time I text him, I don't know if he's in New York, Vegas, LA, Montreal. Let's just be happy that he's in Toronto right now. I still consider him the UFC welterweight champ of the world. Ladies and gentlemen, George St-Pierre. So as we were saying in the back there, this is a gentleman's expo, George, so you and I have to behave ourselves tonight. This is not you and I.
Exactly.
Give it up, man. George St-Pierre's in the house. So you've been out of the spotlight for a while, sort of coming in, coming out. What's the latest with you? What's going on?
Well, now my knee, I was in rehab for my knee. Now I just started training again. I was always training, but more like fitness, musculation. That's why I got more muscle mass. But now I can get back to fighting training, like wrestling, boxing, and jiu-jitsu.
I heard an interview that you did with Chael Sonnen talking about the muscle mass in particular. You and I have talked about the career of Roy Jones Jr. when it was dangerous for him to go up and down in weight. Do you feel different with all this weight on you? Is it harder to train? Or is the speed still there? Do you have more power? How's it feeling?
Yeah, I have definitely a lot more power now. I feel it when I hit pad. People says to me, like, I hit much harder right now. And I correct a lot of movement pattern that I used to do wrong. And now I correct it. You know, so in order to correct it, sometimes you need to take a time off, you know, to stop and kind of, when you do it again, it's like a new start. So it feels very good for me, but I don't have any problem because it's easier to put weight than to losing weight, I believe.
In terms of getting back there, I was actually going back and forth with Faraz, just, you know, shooting the breeze or whatever, but again, talking about you, I said, you know, how was George looking? And he put a smiley face, which means a few things to me when it comes to you. So then I asked you the same question, and the response you kind of gave me was, I'm getting back into it slowly. Do you feel like a white belt again?
Not like a white belt. The first week back, the first day back, like for example in jiu-jitsu, the first week when I first rolled, it was a very humbling experience. Like my technique is there, but it's like my reflex. I'm always a second late, and I'm using way too much energy to do the work that I want to do. So I lost my efficiency. But now it's been, I would say, 3-4 weeks now that I'm back. It started to look pretty good now. It started to get back to where I was when I left, and even better because I feel like I have more power and everything. But I still have to be cautious with some movement because my knee is still not, like, I would say it's still not 100%. So, but it will be there soon.
Now the surgery you had on the other ACL, there was a specific fusion, I believe, of once the surgery gets done, it has to fuse together. You feel great, but you can't do what you want to do because you're under strict orders not to be a clown and start kicking people and double-legging people and doing crazy gymnastics. Is it the same surgery you had on the opposite knee?
Same exact thing, and on my right knee, it came back even better. It feels like I never had a surgery before. I'm not there yet with my left knee, but it will be the same in a few months. Like it's just now, it's a question of time, you know. Like I notice a little different now, but in a few months, I would say maybe around early 2015, it'll feel like it never happened before, so it will feel good.
In terms of getting back into training, the one thing that you've always talked about, there's no reason to come, in my opinion, and I'm pretty sure 99.9% of the people will disagree with me, I don't want to see you come back fighting, but that's up to you. If you get that itch, would you come back and fight?
The reason why I stopped, it's a mix of things. It's only one reason why. And getting back the itch, it's one of the reasons that would make me come back, but it's not the only reason. There's a lot of other reasons. But of course, taking a time off will probably make me want to feel that competitive feeling again that I didn't have for a long time. I don't know. The question is, I don't know. Right now, I don't feel like I want to come back right now, but I feel like I'm having a lot more fun than I used to, and the hitch keep growing and growing. So we'll see. If I find my hunger back and all stars are aligned and it's done like I want it to be done, why not? But we'll see. It's too early to say right now.
In terms of the UFC welterweight division right now, Johnny Hendricks, the last guy you competed against, the last guy on record that you defeated, is the champion. He's taken on Robbie Lawler yet again. What do you see in that fight? Who do you think emerges victorious?
Their last fight were very, very close. I gave it to Hendricks. You know, a lot of guys gave it to Lawler, but I gave it to Hendricks. I scored the same as the judges score it. But it seems to me like Johnny didn't have the same explosiveness that he normally has when he fought me, Kaufman, Condit. He didn't have that same power. I don't know why. Maybe because of his bicep. He says he tore in his bicep. Could be a factor. But he really didn't look the same. So I believe if Johnny Hendricks came back and fight the same, he came back the same as he was when he fought Lawler, Lawler will beat him this time. But if he came back with the same explosiveness he had before, I believe he's gonna win. You know, but it's still hard to predict. But I believe if Johnny came back at his best, I believe he's gonna win the fight against Robbie Lawler.
And of course, there is talk of Rory MacDonald getting that title shot. He takes on the winner, with the event likely happening in Montreal. Are you happy for Rory?
Very happy for Rory. I wish him the best. And in 2015, my knee will feel better, and I'll be there for helping him in his quest for becoming world champion. You know, I wish him the best, and I'll do everything I can to help him out. And he's got the skills and the mentality, the work ethic, determination to become a great champion. You know.
I want you to share some stories about Rory, most specifically because every guy that I know that has ever trained at TriStar, when their name gets, when Faraz does the whiteboard, who's sparring who that day, when their name is opposite Rory MacDonald, they basically put their head down, put their mouth guard in, it's like, these 5 minutes are going to suck. Is he that ruthless, and no pun intended to Robbie Lawler, but is he that mean in terms of sparring? Because I heard, don't waste my 5 minutes, in essence.
It's not that he's a mean person. He's a very nice guy. But you have to understand, when you are in a training camp, you're not in a mood to slow your pace, you know, to hold on to your strike. You're gonna go full out. You know, when you're in training camp, it's the same thing with a lot of other fighters. Not only Rory, Francis Carmon, Norton, Alex Garcia. When you see your name on the board, you know, and I know because it happened to me a lot. Like I was like during my training camp, I was training with those guys. So you know it's gonna be a tough round, you know. But it depends where you at in your training. If you're in a like off season, it could be fun time, you know, like more technical. But if the guy is in his training camp, towards the end of his training camp, he can't wait to fight. He want to get it done with his he want to get out of his misery, basically. So of course he's gonna have some hunger, and he's gonna go hard on you.
Have you been back to TriStar during pro sparring?
Yeah, I haven't sparred yet mixed martial art. I did jiu-jitsu, wrestling, but only drills, like get into the guy's legs. I haven't sparred yet. I don't have a fight schedule. When I fought Carlos Condit and I came back the first time, I was a little bit in a rush. So I came back and sparring very fast. It was not the smartest move to do. It was very risky, but I did it because I wanted to get back to the title fast. But now I don't have any fight schedule, so I'm gonna go back to sparring. We're talking about mixed martial arts sparring, like kick punch with takedown, ground, full contact sparring. I'm gonna get back in 2015. Right now, still my knee is structurally 100%, but some movement sometimes is, I would say I'm very cautious with some movement. I think it's more a mental block that I have, and it's important that if I go back to sparring, to not put myself in jeopardy. I need to not have this mental block that I have, and be 100%, you know, in my movement, my dexterity, and everything.
What about training partners? I'm pretty sure whenever you're sparring guys, whether you're at Henzo's or whether you're at Faraz's, it makes no difference. But what about training partners? Do you actually let them know, like, guys, I'm not training for a fight here. Let's just work on what we need to work on. Like, don't try and kill me here?
No. Right now, because I just got back from my knee surgery, from my rehab. Now I'm getting back, so I need, for sure, I'm training with the guys in the gym that are not in their last phase of their training camp, because these guys are gonna go hard, so I can't put myself in jeopardy, and it's normal. And I don't train also with beginners, because beginners sometimes they do some movement that are unexpected and could be dangerous for me. So I'm training with guys who are like pretty good, but they're not in training camp, so they don't want to, you know, to take your head off or whatever. Like I'll just say, you know, they're gonna go and flow, and we can train hard, but most importantly, train smart.
In July of 2013, you and I were in a suite in Vegas, and we specifically talked about drug testing in mixed martial arts prior to your Johnny Hendricks fight. It was something you were adamant about. You were sick and tired of what was happening in a lot of these guys getting caught for performance-enhancing drugs. At the time, testosterone replacement therapy. TRT is now gone. Guys are getting caught. We saw what happened with Chael Sonnen. We saw what happened with Vitor Belfort. I mean, you saw the picture with Vitor Belfort now. He went from this massive body to the skinny guy. He's taking on Chris Weidman next. We saw what happened with so many other guys. Are you happy with what's happening now in mixed martial arts? That back in the day when you said you wanted to see a change, you were ridiculed by some in the media. Now everybody is heralding you and saying, see what George St-Pierre said after they ripped you?
The thing people need to understand is a lot of these guys, they got caught with the old system. So that shows that this is only the tip of the iceberg, you know, so to speak. If they start doing random testing with an independent and competent organization, that would change a lot of things in the sport, and that's what I want. But in the same thing, it could make the sport look bad. But I think it's only a question of time, you know, and it will happen. If you want the sport to keep growing, it will happen. It's not if, it's a when. It will happen. I just hope it will happen while I'm still in shape and you know, I can compete. You know, we'll see.
So I think you mentioned something specific, and I think it's what mixed martial arts needs right now. If there's so many guys apparently taking all these drugs, we may be going through a period of time where we're going to get rid of these guys. They're going to get caught. They're going to get 9 months suspension, 12 months suspension, or like in the case of Vanderlei Silva, if you run away from a test, you're gone for life. Do you think that's what mixed martial arts needs right now, including, you know, independent testing, random testing, carbon isotope testing, or carbon isotope ratio testing? Do you think that's what we need, and then get rid of these guys that are doing it and bring all the clean fighters up?
The thing in the sport, the technology to use drug will all have an edge on the technology that are testing the drug. That's how it is in the Olympic. But if you do random testing, it will make it harder. And in the sport of mixed martial art, we have big problem with testosterone drug, synthetic drug, EPO, growth hormone also. A lot of guys, they use that for recuperation. It's a big problem in the sport, you know. And you cannot cut everybody, you know, but at least if you make random testing, everybody will be on their guard. They won't take it as much, so it will not make as much of a difference. You know what I mean?
How much of that do you think is incumbent on like the Ultimate Fighting Championship or the commissions to make it more affordable to get these drug tests done? Because they're talking about $45,000 per fight, $4,500 per fighter. It's a lot of money. Can they not find a system, in your opinion, where it's like, listen, we can make this a lot cheaper. These are the testing facilities that we require. These are the tests that need to be done. Just get it done?
There is many ways, you know, like, it's I don't know how they're gonna do it. You know, there is many ways. And if you talk about this, for my situation, I was ready to pay myself for me and for my opponent. You know, and I did it. I said it openly. You know, for me it's important. If I ever come back and fight again, and this is not done yet, if I ever come back, it's a mandatory. I do it for myself and for my opponent. You know, but I'll pay for it. I don't mind. I don't care. The other guys, if they don't want to be tested, it's fine for them. If they can fight each other, I don't care. But for me, it's mandatory.
Bottom line, if you were to come back, you and your opponent must be tested.
Yeah, absolutely mandatory. It's mandatory.
I said this in July of about a year and a half, 2 years ago, that this guy's a trailblazer. Now, I'll never forget the media that after that interview, how many people ripped him and were blaming him, saying there was a fix with VADA and VADA sponsored you. And I mean, it was absolutely ridiculous. Here you are trying to make a change for the sport, and they ripped you anyways.
And my regret is I should have done it a long time ago, but I didn't have. You know, like in UFC, the problem is a lot of fighters they don't have the how do you call it, the star power. A lot of guys they don't have the money, you know. And I used to be one of these guys. I start from the bottom, you know. I didn't have the money to say what I want, what I think about out loud. But now I have enough money. I don't need to fight again, you know. And if I fight again, I can put my condition on. But a lot of guys, when I did that publicly, a lot of guys they send me a text. Not only guys, also reporter, but these guys they want to stay anonymous because they know if it come public, they can get fired or get in trouble, you know. So I just try to do that, not only for me, of course, but also for the bunch of guys that are thinking the same way I do, and also to protect them, I believe.
What's your relationship now with Dana White and Lorenzo Fertitta? I know your relationship with Lorenzo is completely different than the relationship with Dana, but they did come to Montreal a couple of weeks back. You guys did meet up, I think it was for a steak dinner or something like that. What's your relationship like with those two?
I have a very good relationship with both of them. Dana is the promoter, you know, he's the face. He's very emotional. Lorenzo is more rational. So you have two different kind of guys. You have a rational one and an emotional one. And to be a good promoter, Dana is the best at promoting stuff. Like I don't, you know, like I never hate Dana. I always have a good relationship with him. Dana will do what it serves him best, you know, to promote the event. He doesn't care if he's bad or good. He want to promote it. He want to make the guys talk about it. And he's the best in the world. Nobody can deny he's just fantastic at what he does. Even though if you like it or not, you'll talk about it no matter what. And I know this. So for me, I don't take anything personal. I don't mind. And they always been there for me, you know. I always been treated very well with the UFC, you know, like except that incident after the fight when he came out public. But he did that because that's what it served him best at the time. You know, for him, he didn't want me to leave with the belt. It didn't serve him best. So for a business perspective, you know, that's how he says, you know, and I don't have any, I don't take it personal, to tell you the truth.
That's a night that Canadian mixed martial arts fans will never forget, because to this day, I could be pumping, you know, putting gas in my vehicle. I could be buying milk at a supermarket. When I get stopped, the questions I always get are, how's George St-Pierre? Is he coming back? Man, am I pissed off at Dana White for what he said about George St-Pierre after the Johnny Hendricks fight. People to this day have not forgiven what he did, and that was the last time we saw you compete in the octagon. Did you ever get a chance to look at that post-fight press conference? Because I remember I was at the back row underneath the cameras as it was going on, and my fellow media were looking back at me just with their eyes, and in my head I'm like, Dana, what are you doing? Just go backstage, talk to George for a second, then come out and say what you want to say. But he didn't do that till afterwards, and I think the damage was done.
No. What happened after the post-fight? After the fight, I was in the locker room waiting for the doctor because I had a cut. I needed to have stitches. And I wait a long time for the doctor. Then the doctor came, they give me the stitches, and then after the stitches, I told the UFC PR people, so I'm gonna go to the press conference. They're like, oh no, you cannot go, you're not allowed. I'm like, what? I say, you cannot go. Then I realized, wait a second. He's like, oh yeah, I cannot go. He's like, stop me to go see. And then I walked through, and they said, you cannot go. Then I walk in. That's when I came on stage. Everybody, they didn't expect me. But that's why it was kind of a weird feeling, because I was not supposed to go. They told me to not go, but I realized something was happening. I was like, yeah. So I don't know what they're trying to say. So I walked in the stage and I went to the press conference, and that's why I didn't realize at that time, because I didn't know what they were talking about. But it's after, when everything came down, I realized all this. But I knew something was going on, but I didn't know what was going on.
Have you ever watched that press conference again and saw what Dana, was saying? And I understand. Listen, we both know he's very emotional. He's very heated. He's going to say what he wants to say whenever he wants to say. But just my personal opinion, I know he regretted it. And did he ever apologize? Probably not. But
No, he didn't apologize. He wanted me to be. What he said, it was smart because he wanted to create a buzz for me to say, okay, I'll come back and I'll do it again. That's what he wanted me to do. But in a scale of happiness, sometimes I'm thinking about it, and one of the reasons I stopped too. On a scale of happiness, since I would say Jake Shield in Toronto, like after I came back for Carlos Condit, I was very motivated. I was very hungry because I didn't fight. I had the itch back. That was one of my best fights with Carlos Condit. But then after, he came back to the same. And when I fought Johnny Hendricks and Nick Diaz, I asked myself the question: if you would take a scale of happiness, who would be more happy to becoming world champion the night of the fight? Me, who gonna get the title another maybe 9 or 8 or 9 or 10 times, or the guy who gonna get it for the first time and is gonna change his life, is gonna have the exposure, the sponsor, the money and everything. I think on a scale of happiness, the contender will be way more happy to win it the first time than me to win it a second time. So that's when I realized that I was like, you know what? I'm not very, on a scale of happiness, I don't have the same anger. In order to gain that anger again, you need to get out of it and step back. And that's why I take a break. I need to, if I want to come back, I need to find that anger back, and it'll take time, if I ever plan to come back.
I used to love reading the post. Every time after your fight, I used to read the same things by so many people. George St-Pierre can't finish fights. He's garbage. He's playing it safe. And I used to say to myself, did you guys actually watch the fight? He had Dan Hardy's shoulder behind him about to be ripped off. He had him in an arm bar. His elbow capsule was about to pop out. All these guys he's on top of pounding. The whole Nick Diaz situation, being careful because Nick Diaz will give you his back all the time. You can't take his back. It's pretty obvious. Did that ever bother you, the critics saying what they were saying?
It bothered me. I tried to say that it didn't bother me, but it did bother me. I'm a human being. I have feeling. And I watch a critic because the critic helps you to become better. Like if there is a critic, there's a reason why a critic. And I realize this a lot. When you train for a 5-round fight, you don't. It's not the same for a 3-round. You have 5 rounds to do. And when you have many fights for 5 rounds, and when you're a champion for a long time, you condition yourself to fight for 25 minutes. When you train to fight a 3-round fight, it's more explosive. And also the fact that I didn't have the same anger. I was going there also to win, and it is a fact. I've tried to finish, but I didn't have the same. When you fight, it's important when you hit someone that you hit him because you want to hurt him. Like you want to pow the little thing at the end. You want to give it to him, and I didn't have that at the end of my career. Like I say career like it's over, but we don't know. I didn't have that feeling of I wanted to hurt the guy, like the little pang, like I didn't have this, and it's a fact, in order to find that feeling, I believe, and you need to step out, to feel the itch again. You need to find the hunger. You need to step out. If you go back the same way again, you have another fight, it will be gone, and it will be worse and worse, So that's why I'm taking time off too. That's another reason why.
Am I the only one that every time George kind of hints one way, you're like, and then it's going back and forth? Is it driving anyone else nuts in here? There we go. We're going to get some questions from you guys momentarily. There'll be some microphones shortly getting out there. Like I said, again, don't blame me, guys. I've known George, I think 2001 or 2000 UCC, whatever. I've known George for 13, 14 years. As a friend, I don't want to see him come back, but as a guy that covers the sport, I would love to see this guy come back, because he would blow the pay-per-view record for the UFC out the door and put a whole lot of money in his pocket.
I'm gonna tell you the the truth. People always ask me, are you going to come back? And I make an analogy. I think it's Bernard Hopkins said it best. They always ask him after one of his fights, hey, Bernard, are you going to retire or not? And he says, you cannot ask a woman who just gave birth and suffer for hours if she want to have another kid after she just gave birth. The same thing, when you finish fighting, you just don't want to hear this thing, because you just went through not only the fight, but through the whole training camp with all the sacrifice you made, so you suffer a lot, physically and mentally, that you don't think about fighting again. You just want to get out and go on vacation. And for me, now I just finished my rehab. I just start enjoying my time, my vacation, because I'm healthy now. You know, when you're in a cast, your leg is in a cast, and you walk like this, and you can train. It's not really a good time. For me, it's not a good time, because you can't enjoy your vacation, because you don't have the full range of movement. So right now I'm having a good time, and I need time to know if I want to do this or not.
The other thing people may not understand is you're not just a fighter, you're a martial artist. Like, you love to train, you can never get enough. And Faraz is always telling me that you don't know which George St-Pierre generally shows up. The guy that just wants to get a sweat on, a workout. But the one thing that you taught me a long time ago, and it's something I do at home, I picked up, sometimes I just can't get to the gym, so I bought a grappling dummy. It cost me like $1,000 bucks, but I drilled this thing. And one thing you taught me about 3-4 years ago is forget about practicing all these different techniques. Pick one technique and just drill it over and over and over again until it becomes muscle memory. You're still doing that to this day, and you're like the welterweight champion of the world.
Always, and West work sometimes is basic stuff, you know. And for me, it's important to train and have fun. And people always ask me, hey, if I come back. If one day I plan to come back, you know, I'll make sure I do it. I'll do it well. I see too many guys try to come back, and they look bad if they try to come back. So for sure, one day I come back, you know, I'll write the right training camp, the right system, and I'll make sure if I go back to competition, because I will always train. In 2015, I will train, not only train, and I will spar hard. I will help the guy, Rory and all the guys to get where they want to be world champion. And if one day I feel like it and I want to go back, and without being cocky, I believe I'm the best in the world at what I do. And if I want to go back and I want to go for it, I'll put myself 100% and I'll do it, you know. But now I just don't know. But I'll always gonna be training and be.
Anyone see the last Captain America movie? You were a badass in that movie, man. You were a badass. Never mind, you were a bad guy. Did you enjoy doing that flick?
I love it, but when I fought Captain America, I look at the fight again. I shouldn't go back in straight line like this, and I got knocked out. I should have taken some angle, but now it's too late. But what do you want to do next time?
What was it like when the choreographers are saying, do this and do that, and you're like, man, that's not how you fight?
No, but it's not how you fight for real, because in the camera you always telegraph everything, you do everything big. It's not, in a real fight you don't fight like this. But for camera it's different, and I really enjoyed the experience. It was a lot of fun. And the guy that, you know, all those stuntmen, they're really very athletic guys. So I learned a lot from them. Any
more movies that you're working on? They'll be coming out soon?
Yeah, there's a movie coming out. There's a remake of the movie with Jean-Claude Van Damme called Kickboxer. So I'm working on it now. I'm having like acting class and things like this. So if I want to do something, I want to do it well. So I'll be in the new movie called Kickboxer, and Batista, the wrestler, is there, and Alain Moussi, the guy who played the lead role in Brick Mansion with Paul Walker, is there too. So it's gonna be fun.
You like acting?
I like it. I don't think I like it as much as fighting. Fighting is number one for me. I do it for fun. It's on the side. I don't have a huge role. It's perfect for the timing for me. It's a perfect fit.
Is there microphones around? That put your hand up if you got a microphone. If there's any. All right, everybody got a question? Because I'll just keep right there, right in the middle. We'll keep babbling.
Joe, I'll help out too.
What? Touch here. What's up, brother?
You doing, brother?
Oh, no problem. So when you were going through your recovery stages, what were the challenges that you faced when you were like emotionally physically when you had to go through rehabilitation? You needed to not be able to fight, train. What was the process like?
Mentally, it's very hard because I'm a very athletic person. I'm used to do a lot of sport. I do sport every day, you know, whether if it's some kind of martial art or just training or gymnastic or hockey or soccer, basketball. I like to do sport. And when you're in bed and you have your leg in a cast, you can't move. So the most challenging part is mentally, you know. So I always been an extremist. When I do something, I do it all the way, or I don't do it at all. And sometimes the doctor told me that I was trying too much to do things, so I wasn't. I remember I tried to. You know, I was playing with I went to my parent house, you know, and my sister, they have kids, and I had a cast, you know, I was like this. I couldn't basically like bend my legs, and I was playing hockey with the kids, and one of my friends that was there, he took a picture and he told me, he said, "George, it's a bad idea." I said, no, it's okay, I'm not gonna hurt myself. And he sent the picture of my rehab person in LA and they flip out. They say, "Are you crazy?" It's like, we're gonna have to tighten you up. But that was the mental part was the hardest thing. But I need to keep moving. I can't just lay down, you know. I think for me the toughest thing it would be, my worst nightmare would be to, let's say, be paralyzed or something. It would be devastating thing for me. That would be the hardest thing. But mentally it's very hard. You need to stay strong up here.
All right, over here, your name, sir?
My name is Jeremy. George, it's nice to meet you. The question that I have for you is this. What advice do you have to athletes with respect to achieving financial sustainability? Because we often hear about athletes who go broke. And part two to that question is, with your found success in the UFC or in the Octagon, have you had any weird business proposals from friends who just decide to seek you out and go, "Hey, I've got this business proposal, I've got this idea, I want you to hear me out. Thank you very much." Or, "Merci beaucoup, Monsieur Rush."
That's it. Yeah, it's a good question. By the way, it's a very important question. And it's not only for mixed martial arts, it's also for athletes. One of the reasons why I'm doing very well business-wise is I surround myself by competent people. I made mistakes in the past. I've been in lawsuit and things like that. I learned from my mistake, even though it's always better to learn from other people's mistakes. But I've been lucky and fortunate enough that those mistakes that I did happened a little bit earlier in my career than now. I'm surrounded by a good and very competent team. And in mixed martial art, it's hard because most of the guys that started mixed martial art, I was the same. When we first started, we don't have a lot of money. So we try to learn on the run at the same time as we grow as an athlete, and we listen to our friend and this and that. But one of the tips I have to tell the guys and the athlete is surround yourself by competent people, not by your friend. I mean, if they're your friend and they're competent, it's good, but make sure you make a good investigation of by who you're surrounding yourself to for your business, for management, for tax, lawyer. It's very important. Don't be afraid to spend money to make money. That's one thing I've never been afraid of, to invest on myself. Some people say, "Oh, I don't want to hire these guys, they cost too much money." But yeah, but by spending money, you'll make more money in return. You know, so you need to be smart in those things.
One of the things I want to share about George St-Pierre, anyone that's followed my career as I've come up, I owe it all to him, because if it wasn't for my relationship with George, I would not be on this stage right now. And the one thing I learned over the years from way back when is George will always do every interview, every media, every obligation that is required of him to sell his fights. And I was thinking about this the other day as we were getting ready to come up here and do this, actually. I thought to myself, You ask any 35-year-old male or female if they could go back to when they were 20 or 21, and you tell them you got 15 years, you can make as much money in your life for 15 years and never work again. Would you change everything? I guarantee you everybody would say yes. The problem with the mixed martial artists today is there's some guys I can't even get on the phone for a radio show, for a TV show, and I'm like, I'll just call George St-Pierre. George, you got 15 minutes for me? Done. Some of these guys coming up won't do it, but then when they get to 35, 36, they've got no money, they've got nothing to fall back on. Do you guys remember when this guy was in his prime? He was everywhere. Everywhere, you always saw his face. And in my opinion, when your face is in the media and you're everywhere, that brings dollar signs. And I think one guy who's got it is Conor McGregor. Chael Sonnen got it. Conor McGregor's getting it. I mean, there's guys that are slowly getting it. There's some guys that just don't get it. And when their careers are over, they got no money.
You need to make the most out of it, for sure, because you're an athlete and you're in good shape now. You're very athletic, but you won't be like this. I won't be like this for the rest of my life. One day I'll get older, and you don't know. I might get hit by a car. One day I touch wood. I hope it's not happening, but you never know what can happen. So you need to make the most out of it. And right now you talk about this. I work on a very big project. One of the reasons also why I stopped my career is I work on something very big, and I can't talk about it, but it's the first time I talk publicly about it. I'm working on a huge project that, like you said, that would assure the future for me. So then after my head will be clean, I'll be able to do whatever I want. Even though my future is pretty assured now, but we'll make sure, like now I'm working on a big project, something that is not have been done before. And you'll hear about it in 2015. Early 2015.
Joe, that's a tease if we've ever heard one, huh?
Well, so
I just give you a tease right now.
So what you're saying is they should follow at George St-Pierre on social media, and when it's time to talk about it, follow at Showdown Joe, and we'll get it out there.
Exactly.
We have another question, GSP, to your left, over there.
Obviously, you're one of the best fighters in the world, but as a fight fan, how often do you actually watch fights and dissect them and just be, a judge of sorts?
It's a good question. I don't watch fight and boxing all the time. I don't watch every fight. I watch only the one that I like to see. It's weird. Some people will not agree with this. Some people will. I'm a big believer that you can learn only by watching. And I'm a big believer that if you're watching guys who are good, very good, if you're watching the best people at what they do, you'll learn something from it, and you will somehow gain something from it. If you look guys that are not as good as you at what they do, I believe you might diminish a little bit. If you always spend time with you know what I mean, people who are under your level of skill. So for me, for example, I don't really watch fight all the time. First, because I do this stuff every day. When I'm done in the gym, I want to do something else. But sometimes I watch. Last thing that I watched regarding fight is the fight with Bernard Hopkins and Kovalev. That was very interesting for me. I've learned a lot. I've learned a lot from Bernard Hopkins, actually, of how you can manage yourself at his age, how you can fight a guy who's just physically, athletically more, like, just better than you, how you can still, by taking angles and being in the right position to not get hurt that much, It was just an amazing fight for me to learn, to watch, and I learned a lot. So every time I watch a fight, it's in a purpose of learning. There's a lot of guys I like to watch fighting, but I don't watch every fight.
Okay, over here with Chris, and Chris has a question for you. Thanks again, GSP.
Nice to meet you, George. A lot of people have always talked about a catch weight between you and Anderson Silva. Personally, I think a much better fight would be a catch weight between you and somebody like John Jones. Just wondering if you comment on that.
You probably say that because I got a little bit bigger. So I did a lot of musculation, so I get a lot of muscle mass, maybe 8 pounds bigger. But I'm about 200 pounds right now. And just for you to know, I used to be 188. 190 pounds. I used to walk around, when I competed, I was walking around at 188, 190 pounds. And the guy when I was off season, I always been 190 back in the day. The guy I was competing against, they're 205, 210. So I've always been smaller than my opponent. People don't know because I have a large frame. You know, I look bigger than I am, but I'm not as big as I look. Now I got bigger. I'm 200 pounds. I'm still in an average elite of welterweight guys. So if you talk about catch weight, I would need probably to put more weight still, but I don't do drug. I don't know how guys they can go up and down. I just don't know. It won't work for me. It took me like a good 6 months to put like 8 pounds. You know, like it was hard, and because I didn't do as much cardio. I trained more in explosive stuff, and I focus on musculation. But I don't know if I do a catch weight. It depends. You know, it's depends what's gonna happen.
You got a question over there? Yeah, get to your left there.
We got a few more minutes to go before George has to get out of here, but yeah, please.
Hi, my name's Tyler. I'm a young fitness enthusiast, and I really like calisthenics, and I know you do. I just wanted to know, what would you suggest young fitness enthusiasts should do? What's your favorite exercise, and what calisthenic exercise would you suggest that people should do in general?
In terms of training, I like... You have two schools of thought, kind of, you know, like, you have more than that, but in a way, like, in terms of training, in my domain, you have the guy that like to do something at an intensity medium for a long period of time, and you have people that like to do something with a very high intensity, but for a short period of time. So if you compare like a sprinter and a marathon runner, you know, so some guys when they fight in UFC, they're more like long distance guy, like Nick Diaz, I would say Carlos Condit, Jake Shield, they're a good example of that. They're more like John Fitch, they're more like long distance guy. They like to do something like at a medium pace, a good pace but medium, but for a long period of time. And you have guys like that are very explosive, like for example me or Johnny Hendricks, or guys who are my style of fighting represent the way I train, so to speak. So I'm more like a sprinter build type of guy. You know, I like to do something very explosive, very intense for a short period of time. Then I take a break and I explode again. Instead of doing something, an exercise for an intensity that will be medium high for a long period of time, I like to do like spike, pum, pum. And if you see my fight, that's the way I am. I'm relaxed, pa 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 pa, explode, relax, da da da, explode. So I spike my level of energy. That's the way I work the best for me. But it depends what it works the best for you. And it's proven, by the way, some people. If you work on explosive, an explosive thing, you raise your testosterone. They say like if you train like with a very high intensity for a short period of time, you raise your testosterone and you diminish your cortisol. If you do the other way around, like an Ironman or a marathon runner, you raise your cortisol and you diminish your testosterone. So for me, as a human being, it works better for me to train like an explosive guy, like similar to a football player or a sprinter. It just, for me, it makes more sense. It's more athletic, and I like it better.
One thing I would recommend, exactly what he just said, is Google two things: HIIT, H-I-I-T, high intensity interval training, and Tabatas. Tabatas are the worst. 4.5 minute workout on a treadmill, you will be soaked, you'll be sweating after you shower for hours. Try it. Tabatas.
Darcy's got one question. I have to ask one real quick before Darcy does. Speaking of testosterone, how does it feel to be one of the world's biggest sex symbols? How do you cope? I mean, this is what the ladies are here for. Let's be honest, George.
I don't know about that. A sex symbol, I don't think so. It's a lot. There's guys who are way better sex symbol than me.
And Darcy, your last question of the day.
Yeah, George, you've been a great inspiration, and you're the only guy I've ever bought all of your fights for the UFC. which one of the fights that you had was your absolute favorite fight in your memory, and who was the toughest guy you ever fought?
Toughest, like you talk about tough, durability. I would say durability, Nick Diaz or John Fish, a very durable guy. Toughest in terms of competitiveness. If you look at the fight, it's a close fight. It's very competitive. Johnny Hendricks, BJ Penn. And skill-wise, if you took the guy that I believe time for time, like for his era that I fight, that was the best fighter skill-wise, I believe it's BJ Penn. When BJ Penn was at his best, I would say was probably the best pound for pound. He was probably the best skill-wise, the best guy that I fought. And the toughest fight, like I mean the fight that it took me the most out of me, that I was the most, I would say the most messed up. You know, I had damage, like the bad, is my fight with Carlos Condit. Carlos Condit is the guy that hurt me the most. After the fight, I had a kick. I had to go to hospital. It was very bad. It took the most out of me. I was not able to play volleyball at the beach after the fight with Carlos Condit. I was pretty messed up.
If you ever get a chance, ladies and gentlemen, try and watch. Who's seen the DNA of GSP? If you haven't seen it, I recommend it. It's all about the Condit fight, the Diaz fight. It was absolutely unbelievable. Another amazing documentary on George St-Pierre, like The Striking Truth. But he's got to go. He's got a bunch of things to take care of. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much, George St-Pierre.